Well, thank you for hanging out with me today. Like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about preparing for virtual interviews. The first thing that I just kind of want to touch upon is obviously this is becoming more common, but it's not anything that's super new. I can remember having my first virtual interview maybe 7 years ago or so. And it serves different purposes, right? Depending on where a particular job is pulling candidates from, it allows people to at least get through a first round of interviews, get to know people without having to do a huge commitment, having people fly in or anything like that. So definitely not new, but it's going to be more common. I think people are more comfortable with things like Zoom and FaceTime, but also it's just solving some problems. I also wanted to point out that I think you're going to see some different styles. There might be interviews where your virtual interview is your only interview. But also there's a lot of times where, they might want to talk to 10 people and that's all done in a virtual environment. And then once they've narrowed it down to their 2 or 3 top candidates, then maybe they're having people come in, meet in person. And so it's going to look a little different, but these tips will kind of apply no matter what we're looking at. Have you guys had the chance to do anything more formal on Zoom or FaceTime, an interview or something similar, or their hand up or chat, or if you guys know the reactions? I see some nodding. Good. So let's definitely get into it. We're going to start with the steps that you would kind of think about and go through before the interview is even happening, right? There are some things that, let's say your interview is a week from now. What are the things that we should be thinking about far in advance? So take some stabs at it. What do you think you need to do in advance to kind of prep for something that's technology specific?
Check out their website.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Check out where you're going to sit, where you're going to have that interview.
Absolutely. So thinking about setting far in advance, for sure. Definitely good answer. So let's dive into it. The first thing I like to say is your tech ready? So updating your computer. I have had so many people on just regular meetings with me say, oh, I was trying to log into our meeting. And the second I logged in, it asked me to restart my computer or update the latest. Totally fine for advising, not offended at all. But when it comes to an interview, we don't want to look unprepared. So either if you're techie yourself, update it all. If you need to call a techie friend or relative, do that, in advance and make sure that everything is up to date as possible. Secondly, you might already have this, but if you don't have the platform that they're going to want to meet on, making sure that you download that, it's compatible and all of that, good fun stuff. They'll let you know. Are they using Skype? Are they using Zoom? Zoom seems to let people in without an account. As long as they have that link, they're able to do that. But other programs, maybe like Skype, they need you to pre-set up an account so that you can have a username for them to call you on. So getting familiar with that site, making sure that's not the first time you're using it. And lastly, obviously, we need to have a working camera or microphone. You guys are here with me today. That's obviously not an issue, but something we want to, be aware of. If you are doing your interview at work by chance, or, at somebody else's house, are you going to have a device that has that? Sometimes we take for granted and we assume that everything will have a camera in it. But again, I don't want you being taken back by any surprises. Stephanie, you were starting to lead into this is location, location, location. Where are we physically going to sit? And these are the things to think about. Our noise level. Obviously, we have some level of control over that. We can't control if a truck is going to drive down the street or if the neighbors are going to be noisy, but what level can we find a good place that is going to be effective and not distracting? Background view. Just like you guys pointed out, I've blurred the background of the office because it's it's an office, but it could be really distracting when we're in an interview, right? There's all sorts of monitors and chairs and people are like, oh, what does the sign behind you say? All of that. So thinking about what people have to say, where, you know, Jody, I'm going to pick on you, your screen, you have nice white walls. There's nothing behind you that, you know, talking with you is distracting for me.
Mhm.
Except, hold on, I'll unblur mine and
Yeah.
show you.
Absolutely. And Stephanie, it's a great example because there is absolutely nothing unprofessional about your wonderful collection of books. Is it distracting though? And that would be the argument that maybe if it's not a class and it's more of an interview and you really need them focusing on you, you want the focus to be on you and not the like, what does she have back there? Do I see any Harry Potter? You know, what's your favorite genre?
Yeah, and you don't want to do stuff like this.
Well, and we are going to jump into that in just a moment. So let's think about physical space just for another moment. The resources, so an outlet, if you are on, you know, a laptop, you want to be able to connect. Don't leave that to chance and think you have enough battery. Good seating, you want to be comfortable, right? Lighting, thinking about that, testing it out and make sure that your face is well lit, that it's not super dark. Also, just be aware of windows. You guys had a situation where you're FaceTiming and it's backlit and they just like a big blurry shadow. I'm sure we've all had that, even if it's just trying to talk to a relative on your phone. Make sure that the lighting will be bright, but not directly behind you where that the interviewer won't be able to see you. And then finally, possible interruptions. Be prepared. And how are you going to deal with that? If you were in, when Dean was speaking this morning, he had that puppy and he knew exactly what he was going to do, right? Puppy needed to go out. He took a moment, excused himself, put the puppy outside. You know, we all have things that happen. What can you do to prevent it? What can you do to kind of prevent it? You know, if you have family members at home with you, can you say, hey, for this 1 hour, I really have an important interview. Can you, you know, please not come in? If I put a door on the or a reminder on the door, will that help you not forget to please not come in while I'm in this really important meeting? Whatever it is for you, going ahead and preparing that in advance. So I want to look at a few pictures and I think we might start to touch on what Stephanie was saying, but no right or wrong. In the next couple of photos, tell me, what do you think they're doing well and what maybe they should change about their situation. So we have this young guy here. Anything going well and anything we should probably think about switching up?
He doesn't look that comfortable.
Potentially. Depending
And
on,
he's not plugged in, so his battery could die.
absolutely. I could agree with those. Anything else one way or the other?
If he's in a central part of his house, I don't know where the doors are, so he could potentially be interrupted at any given moment.
Absolutely. I mean, if you really want to nitpick, it looks like the TV's on over here. Watching the TV, is somebody else watching the TV? I'll give him the benefit that the shirt is neutral. So, you know, and it looks like he has a somewhat neutral background on couch, white wall, nothing crazy as far as that goes. So I could give him the benefit of that. Let's take another look. Somebody else. How about this one?
Not something I would ever do, but
But so why? What would be the problem? They can't see what he is or is not wearing.
The dog.
Yes.
There's several things that could go wrong. You know, the coffee could, you know,
Yes.
go everywhere, or whatever he's drinking, you know, accidentally have to get up really fast. You know, the dog could be a distraction. You just, that's just
No, for sure.
too many things waiting to go wrong.
Exactly. And that's the point that I wanted to make here is for all we know, the dog starts throwing up. In a panic, he sets that laptop down on that table, and all of a sudden everybody in that Zoom call sees what he is or is wearing. So, we'll talk more about this in a moment, but I always say head to toe dress like you're in the interview, just in case something happens and they do see, your shoes or whatnot. And it puts you in the right frame of mind, right? You're dressed for an interview.
Mhm.
The dog might be really well behaved, but it's not a risk I would want to take.
I mean, if they're interviewing at chewy.com,
Yeah, maybe
that could
exactly.
be okay, but
Sure. Maybe
but-
it's his therapy dog and he's really
yeah,
anxious.
yeah,
I don't know.
possible. But again, there's a lot going on there that has the potential to go very bad and very wrong.
Agreed.
Very
Too
quickly.
many unnecessary risks.
Yes. I like the idea of having a beverage, some water when you have an
Mhm.
The cup of coffee does feel a little casual to me. Potentially. Are you not taking it seriously? You're kind of lounging and drinking.
Mhm.
The other thing is I can't tell what they can see, but being in a bedroom like that does make me nervous. Is there a headboard? Is it obvious that you are in a very personal space?
Yeah, that's the other thing. I know a lot of people do use their bedrooms, but when possible, I like to use my dining room or my home
Yes.
office because
Yes.
I don't know. It just it takes a little bit of that relaxation out.
Mm-hmm.
It puts you in that frame of mind of, I need to get stuff done.
Absolutely.
I don't use my bedroom and I can't use my home office because my husband's working in there.
Absolutely.
So I kind of made my own little office in my living room.
Yeah,
So that's
absolutely.
why I kind of blur behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And there obviously is a difference between the classes that you guys are in now and then the exception for we're talking about a 1 hour interview. We can maybe put things aside and make a more perfect space than we can on like a regular basis. So absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And
The other thing, go ahead.
I'd go back to what Jody's saying. I don't know about anybody else, but I don't like having open containers
Right.
near my computer.
Yes. Yeah.
So like I have 2 bottles right here and they're both have lids.
Yes, absolutely. Well, again, he spills the coffee, then suddenly he has to put the computer down to get a towel and then we
Or he spills it on
Things go
himself.
Oh, yes, there is a variety of things. Before I forget, one thing I wanted to point out in location, and this is just reminding me, it's also a really great idea to be able to write during your interview. You probably want to come with some written questions prepared. I know you ladies know that. Also, if somebody says something that you want to remember to come back to, and in a situation like this, or our friend sitting on the sofa, you could have a notepad, but it's just not set up for you to take the best notes possible. So that's another downside to either of these. How about this friend? What's good? What's not great?
His door's open.
Yeah, we don't.
And his background is a little busy.
Exactly. Are there other people in the house? Are there animals walking around? It would have been pretty easy to just shut that door.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you guys, but I've watched things on YouTube where people are like working from home, and some lady had her boyfriend walk in was butt naked.
Yeah.
On live TV.
Absolutely. That's part of reminding everybody that's in your household, like, hey, this is really important to me. But also setting yourself up to be successful, shutting that door. Anything positive about this?
It's white. Essentially it's black and white. A couple of the pictures are distracting, but essentially it's black and white.
Yeah, I feel like it's neutral enough. You don't have to be perfectly nothing on the walls. They're kind of just general art. I see a kid's handprint in the corner, some little family stuff, but nothing like really personal photos where somebody's kind of spending too much time looking at the background. It's pretty neutral.
And he looks bored.
Say that again?
He looks bored.
He does look bored. It is hard to find some good screenshots. If you try to Google bad Zoom photos, you get some really But yes, you're right. He's maybe not smiling. Maybe he's not really in an interview. Maybe he's in a very boring group meeting. How about this friend? Anything one way or the other with this?
She's going to lose connection really quickly.
That's what I was worried about.
A little too casual.
Too casual. Yeah, there's definitely the physical pieces. Too casual. They can probably see her feet. And then there's like the physical needs, right? That she's not hitting any of those.
Mm-hmm.
The noise is going to be inconsistent. The power, the Wi-Fi signal, the people driving down the street.
And there goes Jody shutting her door.
Yeah.
So yeah, outside in general usually is not the best option, but just kind of throw that in there.
Well, her position, she laying down with the feet in the air is very relaxed, and although very, I mean, it's obviously a very colorful atmosphere, but not, I mean, heaven forbid somebody's sprinkler system turns on.
Oh gosh, that would be funny. Can you guys imagine if you walked into this session and I was like this and my feet were just like kicked up in the back? And you're like,
yeah, I'd be thinking, are we really doing this today? You know,
I'm sorry, Lauren, are we bothering you? Were you like really?
Yeah, just it's very, very casual.
I think this is obvious here. I did want to highlight that there are some good benefits to using the backgrounds, whether they're blurred ones or something else. But I chose this because although these can be fun for class or even your advising meeting with us, like we're chill, it's fine. These are probably not things we're wanting to do in a more professional interview setting. Obviously exceptions, maybe if you're interviewing to be a second grade teacher, some of these might be really fun and exciting and show that you can be engaging. But again, maybe not necessarily our best foot forward. I do really appreciate the Brady Bunch one. I thought that was pretty funny. So have you guys seen this? This was in the news. Have you seen this example?
Oh my gosh.
This is real. This is a woman that was a reporter. And I chose this because this shows what we saw versus she shared what her real life looked like. And the point I just wanted to make with this is that your life doesn't have to be perfect. Don't let that stress you out. But look,
I say this all the time.
Yeah, she just got creative. The toys are still on the floor. You know, the couch is where it is. The art is where it is, but she made it work. What do you do to make it work? What are the kind of highlights of this picture?
She has that laptop high enough where, or at an angle that you can't see all the toys on the floor. And she knows they're there, but you can't see them.
The other point I want to make about that chair really quick is absolutely the height helps the room, but it also, sometimes you get creative for your angle on your face, right? Sometimes having your computer on your table gives you that weird angle. You know what I'm talking about? So simply books, the kids' board games, whatever it is to raise her situation is a chair on top of a coffee table. That's fine. Again, this is not long-term for your classes that you're having every week. This is the situation of that 1 hour really important interview.
Exactly.
Like this forever. I don't want anyone taking the wrong, take this the wrong way. Anything else that you guys wanted to praise her on in this?
She's very professional from the waist up.
Yeah, she's not following our what happens if she stands up rule. But she made it work, right? You know what? She put on that blazer. She made it work. So I did want to highlight this. I had to have somebody share this with me. I could not get the Zoom backgrounds to work. They were doing that weird choppy thing. And if you go into the backgrounds and filters, there's this button and it says, I have a green screen. And I believe that it automatically checks that off. And so if you do have a green screen and you are having that button checked off, it's assuming you have one neutral background. If you don't, like most of us don't, make sure that's unchecked and it will make a huge difference. I'm not sure if the two of you already knew that, but it was new to me and I just knew that I needed to share that in this session. Also,
lots of people don't know that.
yeah. Right?
I didn't when I first started this.
And it's still new for all of us and we're still learning. And that you can upload any picture you want. You can take your own photo. For a while, we just Googled neutral office space and you find, especially now that we've all been on Zoom, thousands of stock photos, right? Find an office photo that feels like your vibe, that feels what you would want your office to look like if you could. And so that it does reflect your personality. Maybe it's more funky, maybe it's more classic, colorful, more neutral, whatever you want it to be. Do know that all you have to do is upload a photo here and you're able to do that. So far,
I would love to get the Mount background.
Yeah, I think we could probably work on that. You could even probably Google something and we could get you one. So far, are we feeling like everything makes sense? We're kind of, any questions?
Yep.
Good. This is a little bit about that angle that I was talking about. Again, this was pretty funny trying to find us a photo to demonstrate. Something as simple as using a couple, books or board game or whatever you have handy can make all of the difference. They have one of those fancy little ring lights. I'm not saying you need one of those, but thinking about the light source, again, trying it out before you have that official interview.
I have my light behind me,
Mhm.
behind my computer.
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of those
Front
ring
of
lights,
you.
but yeah, like I can see the light, but you guys can't.
Right, absolutely. And so that's one of those things that maybe typically when you sit at your desk, the light is behind you and it backlights you. But for this interview, is there a way that you can turn yourself on so you're lit properly? So I know we've chatted about these, but I just wanted to highlight some do's. I didn't want to do don'ts. I want to do be positive with this. So as we talked about, neutral background or appropriate virtual background. Sitting where you're going to be as free as possible from distractions. Setting up your meeting where you're going to have stable internet. That might be at home, but something to think about is, as we've seen through today's conference, is home not a great place? Do you have a friend that has better internet? Can you come to campus? Can you, a local coffee shop maybe has more stable internet? There's obviously issues with each of those. Have to weigh the options, right, and figure out what is the best place to do. Create a professional environment. Not just what they can see, but again, reminding yourself, you don't want to be sitting in a bed where you feel really relaxed and casual, sitting at a desk. You want your camera eye level, and planning to dress like you would for any interview. We've talked about that they don't know, what they're going to see, but even though you're in your own home, potentially, you don't want them to think that you're taking this any less seriously than any other interview. Sturdy place. This again talks about if you're going to be taking any notes or, if you're needing to set things down, it's really important that you do have a sturdy surface to be working from and that you're not trying to balance things in your lap and that things are wiggly and that you're giving your audience motion sickness during your interview. And lastly on here, obviously turning your phone to silent. Both you don't want to be distracted by that, but you also don't want the people on the other side of your interview hearing buzzing or ringing of text messages during this.
I have another one that you forgot.
Okay.
If you need to shut your camera off, have an appropriate picture like I have.
Oh, that's a good point. Not just picture, but name. That's another good thing is that I've had some people who I'm not sure what else they use their Zoom account for, if they use it for anything like gaming related or things like that, but there are other usernames that are not their actual name. And you probably don't want to go into an interview with that. So yes, appropriate picture, and appropriate name for sure. And this is the first time I'm doing this session. So if you guys think of anything I forget, definitely welcome suggestions. So testing 1, 2, 3. You want to test out all the technology. This is probably a little bit closer to your interview, making sure everything's set up, turn the camera on. You know, with Zoom, you can have a friend and you can do a test call, but you can open up a Zoom chat, even if it's not another person on the other end. A lot of times we actually use that to record workshops, even if no one's there. So turn on the camera and just see what things look like. What can I see? What can't I see? Do I need to be up higher or lower? Edit as needed. And then after that, if you have a friend or a family member that's willing to do a test run with you, I really recommend it. And this is kind of what we're talking about. What does your name show up and when you log in? And I was thinking of the actual name, but you're absolutely right that we want to talk about photo as well.
Because I know some people have photos of like nothing.
Which is not the worst thing. Nothing is better than some of the ones that I've seen. That apparently there are things, again, people use their accounts for multiple uses. That's okay. But make sure that before your interview, it's a photo that you feel comfortable sharing with a future employer, for sure.
Yeah.
So
I like my photos, so what can I say?
No, absolutely. And you know, you might already have just a general photo, but again, people use their accounts for all sorts of reasons. There's nothing wrong with that. You just need to prepare. So probably some pretty obvious things, but on the day of, what are we going to be doing? If possible, setting up early. You don't want to be kind of scrambling last minute. Again, testing that tech, make sure that, yep, I can still log into Zoom. Dressing from head to toe. Make sure you know how to connect to the call. Are they going to call you? Do they, is it the other way around? Is there one Zoom link and you're just entering the meeting when they're ready? Depending on the software, it might run a little differently. So just make sure that ahead of time, you know what's going on. I've even had that nervousness with phone interviews, right? You're like, am I supposed to call me? Who calls who first? And then, you know, your interview's at noon and it's like 12:01 and you're like, oh my gosh, was I supposed to call them? And so do your mental health a favor and make sure you kind of know. Reminding anybody who's around. I know we keep talking about this, but hey, teenage children, hey, spouse of mine, you know, is it putting the puppy in the crate? Whatever it is, like reminding the people, roommates, whoever's around. I get this important thing in 15 minutes. Can you please X, Y?
Be quiet.
Yeah. Can you please leave the house? Some of you might have people that you're just not going to remember.
No interruptions for 15 minutes.
Right? Here's $5. Please drive to the farthest Starbucks away that you can. You know, or, you know, go to McDonald's, sit in the parking lot, drink a soda. Please just don't, you know, be in this building. Or whatever it is that you need to do. Plug in that laptop, just don't trust it. And this is the other big thing, to shut down all unneeded computer programs. I know I have email open sometimes. We have a chat system for the school. If I'm recording stuff, I try to turn all of that off. Anything that's going to make beeps and bloops and rings through your interview, you just don't want to have that going on. Either they're going to hear the ring, or actually what I've found is when it goes off, you just hear almost like a quick mute, and the person listening to you will kind of miss a few words. You can take notes in Word, but I really recommend, this is one of those situations, I would rather you have only your interview up and have some, you know, good old fashioned pen and paper to write down anything that you think you might want to write down. We don't want the mistake of trying to move the Zoom conversation to the side to write something out, and then you actually fall. So if you have a separate computer, that's fine. But again, I try to only have that interview open. And your phone is not a great option. I probably don't need to say this, but if all of a sudden I'm going like this, they don't know if I'm taking notes or if I'm just texting. So again, I'm sure I don't need to say this, but don't use your phone for, even if you're looking at the company's website or looking at your questions, it's just better to have it on paper so that there's no misunderstanding between you and the people that you're speaking with. So now that we're in our interview, so some tips for during it, looking at the camera to make eye contact. You guys have probably seen throughout the session, my PowerPoint's over there. I have 2 monitors. It doesn't look like I'm looking at you guys, even though this makes the most sense to talk like this. If I look here into the camera and speak to the camera, you probably feel a little more connected to me, right? Or if I'm looking at you guys, it doesn't look like I am looking at you. Again, it looks like I'm looking at something else. So I remember this from one of my first virtual, Zoom type interviews, that I actually got some positive feedback, is that I was one of the few candidates that they thought made eye contact. As tempting as it is to look at the people that are speaking to and you're speaking with, look at the camera, it makes them feel more connected to you. You probably will have to bounce back and forth a little bit, but as much as possible, answer into the camera. That takes practice. That's not always easy. But again, when you're especially trying to make that connection with them, make them see your personality, feel personable, that can be a really helpful tip. Notepad, it's not great to be multitasking on your technology. I always jump ahead of myself. And then I know we talked about this. It's okay to mute. If you have to cough, if you have to sneeze, if there's a giant truck coming by, it's okay to hit mute for a quick second. It's up to you. If you feel like that's less disruptive, I definitely think that that's okay.
But don't forget you're on mute.
Oh, yes, I'm sure they would remind you if they could see your lips moving. Yeah. Other things that you can think of for during, obviously all regular interview rules apply. Let's go to the next slide, but if you guys think of anything, like I said, I am welcome to feedback. Same thing, different format. So again, it's really not all that different when you come down to it. You want to be your most polite and professional self, being on time, having questions to ask of them, thanking the interviewer or interviewers for their time. These things aren't different. You're wanting to handle it exactly how you would have. So that kind of wraps up the big highlights that I wanted to talk about when it comes to doing things through technology. Other questions that you have, things you think I missed?
Nope.
Nope. Did a good job, Lauren.
Well, thank you. Well, I will stop our recording.